Moin und herzlich willkommen hier wieder bei The Hobbyist in der Kategorie Gaming mit dem Spiel Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. Ja, nachdem wir als Vampir neu erschaffen worden sind, in den letzten 2 Folgen, geht es jetzt darum, die Vampirgesellschaft etwas näher kennenzulernen. Ja, und unser neuer Sire, beziehungsweise unsere Erschaffung kann man dazu nicht sagen, nennen wir es einfach unsere Wegbegleiterin innerhalb der Camarilla, Sophie, wird uns heute mitnehmen auf die Jagd. Und was da passiert, das seht ihr jetzt in Folge 3. Viel Spaß! So, da sind wir auch schon wieder. Diesmal in dem schönen Menü, in der Übersicht. Da werden später noch Sachen drauf erscheinen. Aber wie wir hier schon sehen, was ich sehr, sehr cool finde, dieser Karte, sind die Straßen, die hier so als Blutadern quasi dargestellt sind. Ziemlich cool. Wer schon mal in New York war, oder zumindest in dem Teil, in dem ich war, weiß auf jeden Fall, dass das hier Manhattan ist. Wo wir gestern ja auch eine Weile rumgefahren, wo wir beim letzten Mal eine Weile rumgefahren sind. Hier Freiheitsstatue, Insel, ich glaube, das hier ist Brooklyn und hier ist, glaube ich, die Brooklyn Bridge. Irgendwie so, genau. Und naja, wie auch immer. Fangen wir doch an mit dem nächsten Tag oder der nächsten Nacht und übertagen jetzt erstmal. Tutorial. Hunger lies at the heart of a vampire's existence. To ignore it is to tempt the beast to take over your actions and its desire to feed. To overindulge in feed may threaten the masquerade as well as staining what humanity you have left. In Coteries of New York, having a higher hunger is indicated by a progressively bigger bloody frame around the screen, like the one you see now. Genau, weil ich jetzt hungrig bin, gibt es hier an der Seite jetzt diesen blutigen, Rahmen hier. As your hunger grows, so does this indicator. Your hunger may increase when you call upon your vampiric powers or when you need to mend your wounds after a fight. Als wenn ich vampirische Kräfte benutze oder mich nach einem Kampf heilen muss, dann kann es sein, dass der Hunger größer wird und das sieht man dadurch, dass dieser Rahmen eben ein wenig prominenter wird. When your hunger reaches a maximum amount, you will receive a warning after you complete a piece of the story. Ignore it at your own peril. Also man soll aufpassen, dass man das nicht einfach ignoriert, sondern man sollte zwischendurch auch nochmal was essen. Oder trinken in dem Fall. Some choices might only become visible if your hunger is high enough. Similarly, a higher hunger may block off some choices, as we'll be able to see after pressing continue. Genau. Achso. A higher hunger may block off some choices. Okay, das heißt, das hier werde ich nicht auswählen können. Weil rot, weil ich zu hungrig bin, kann ich das hier nicht machen. Das hatte ich letztens tatsächlich schon mal und ich wusste nicht mehr, was es heißt. Gut, dass ich das nochmal von vorne spiele. Continue. To decrease hunger, you will need to feed. Whenever you see a feeding opportunity, you can take the risk to hunt and slake your hunger. Genau. Wenn immer man eine Feeding Opportunity sieht, die sind dann auch gekennzeichnet im Text. Ich glaube, das sieht man jetzt hier auch. Genau. Mit diesen 2 Fangzähnen. Ist immer noch aufgeblockt. Wenn man die hat, dann kann man versuchen, das Risiko einzugehen, sich zu ernähren. You will need to keep the hunger at bay if you are to uphold the masquerade and survive the nights that await you. Und jetzt geht's weiter. You open your eyes. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid metal door is closed. Normally you'd stretch for a bit. On some mornings you'd probably throw the kilt over yourself and snooze a moment longer. But that was before. The way you woke up now, you're fully conscious. No grogginess. Nothing weighing you down, just the nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger. Not as severe as the last time, but unmistakably there. Get up and open the door to the main room. A digital clock at the TV shows you the time, 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is New York City's artificial nighttime luminescence. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now? You miss the sunlight already. You're seriously considering just walking out of the apartment and figuring all out by yourself. Then you come back to the memory of Kadir's exotic sword being erased in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't that bad of an idea, after all. You keep jumping channels for around half an hour and then switch to streaming services. Almost as if the universe had a sense of irony, you catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings. It's Sophie. Good evening, Stevie. Slept well? Like a dead man. It's not exactly like normal sleep, is it? I suppose it isn't. Some say it's more like being dead. But we wouldn't know, would we? It's no use reflecting on it anyway, except that this is who you are now. You made the right choice yesterday. I can teach you many things about yourself, your blood, its desires and its power. We will begin tonight. You're hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There's only one remedy, the blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way you slake your thirst. So tonight I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kind's vulnerabilities to your advantage. No more freebies, Predator and Prey, huh? Grim. Was hatte ich denn da letztes Mal noch? Das ist jetzt schwierig, da weiß ich es gerade nicht mehr. Ich glaube, das habe ich gesagt. So, let me get this straight. We are predators, humans are prey. That's pretty grim. I know what you feel. I remember the notion. But you will inevitably grow beyond it. You need blood to thrive, but there are many ways to take it, some more humane than others. You will find that drinking moderate amounts of it regularly will keep the hunger and the whispers of the beast away. You might think yourself monstrous, but there is a balance to be found here. The kiss gives the kind pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some can even become addicted to the sensation. But if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeling. After all, vampires do not exist. They are myths, fairy tales and pop culture mainstays, correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. That is why the Masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. How do you avoid being seen? How do you avoid being seen while feeding? You isolate your prey, or you choose the right circumstances. People tend to avert their gaze when they see a couple intertwined in public. Love bites are easy to explain why. Some of us keep willing herds, or even just individual kind who desires to kiss. That comes at a higher risk these nights, though. So, if I would not recommend it to a young kindred like yourself. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching out you risk the ire of other kindred on those domains you trespass. Lucky for you, New York City is more forgiving in this regard. New York is somewhat of a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time, but keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves these upcoming nights. As long as you hunt cautiously and respect the Masquerade at all times, you should be fine. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs, Gregory is waiting for us. The Busy street fills the air with traffic noise. Pedestrian chatter and a mix of smells disorient you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. You catch yourself. Did you really just think of these people as mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie's to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her and then tips his hat to you, gesturing to the back of the car. The car casually joins somewhat thin New York traffic. It's still busy in a way only one of the biggest cities in the world can be, but compared to the daytime commute, it's a pleasant drive. You barely have the time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You are among the tall skyscrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. Come, Stevie, park the car, Gregory, will ya? The driver just nods and Sophie gets out. You join her and the two of you walk through the glass doors together, then take the elevator up. You first notice an empty stage with the instruments of a string quartet still in the back, then take in the few dozen chairs in front of it. The concert seeming concluded, the patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, have spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation for her purse that she flashes in front of a security guard. You follow close and are let through without issue. Let's start easy. A social setting like this one would usually prove quite challenging to an inexperienced kindred, but consider this evening a small gift from your patron. I'm hoping to procure for you a willing vessel. Just remember what I told you about taking small sips. This one I have a soft spot for. Don't damage her. Now let's see here. Ah, there he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashes a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you in this moment. Sophie's beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. Everybody in the crowd, but especially the man who's almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How is your daughter? Is she with you? Oh, there she is. Julie, my girl, come over, please. There's somebody I'd like you to meet. The young woman who walks across the hall can't be more than 19 years old. It's clear from her mismatched earrings and the partially faded purple hair dye that she doesn't fit this crowd. Julie, this is Stevie. I think the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'll like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods towards the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure what it is exactly Sophie expects you to do. You reach a secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, then laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble of figuring out the next step. If you're with Sophie, then I guess you're, I mean that, you know? She puts her wrist to her lips and gives herself a theatrical nip, then looks to you, embarrassed, but also hopeful. What, you're into that sort of thing? What, are you into this sort of thing? She blushes, looks down at the floor, nods. Could you, if you'd like, Miss Langley tells me She swallows hard, avoids your eyes. That I taste nice. Drink from Julie. You take her form in your hands. A quick look around confirms nobody watching, and no security cameras cover this area. You bite down gently. It's surreal. She's just given you her blood of her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. You tear away from her. A brief convulsion shakes you. Her smell. It's her smell, it's not right. The temporary feeling of bliss the girl felt when you bit her is gone in an instant. She's disappointed, annoyed even. She looks at you, unsure of what's the matter. Come back! Please, just have some more, just a little bit more. The very thought makes you want to throw up. What little of her blood you've tasted, you shake your head. The girl sniffs, starts crying, wipes her face into her jacket sleeve and walks down the stairs and into the hall. The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly. Looking at her now, only some residual awe hangs in the air. Yes, she's pretty, maybe even beautiful, sure, but not your type. What came over you before? You walk over to her. Edgar, dear, it was splendid talking to you, but we need to get going. Give Julie my best wishes. Come with, Stevie. Gregory is waiting for you out front. It's only in the car that Sophie addresses you. So, how did it go? I tried, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand the smell or the taste. Curious. I consider Julie's blood to have one of the most exquisitive and unique bouquets in the city. And trust me, I have refined taste. She almost sounds like she's offended. Oh well. If at first you don't succeed, perhaps you need a change of pace. Time for the next stop. Training wheels off this time. Gregory, Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over the Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. What's about training wheels? Why Flushing Meadows? Those people back at the hall, they were all entranced. Even I was under your spell. What was that? She smiles with satisfaction. That old trick, just the blood doing my bidding. We all have our talents. Some of them come from legacy we inherit from our sire. Others can be learned with experience. I can sway people or make them fear me. I see more of the world and in greater detail than some kindred. I can will my body to move with unparalleled precision and grace, and more. All of these skills make me who I am. They also help me hunt. Okay, so what are my talents? Time will tell. You need to discover them yourself. When we arrive, experiment. Give different things a try. Follow your instinct and intuition. It will guide the blood. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is all fine if you can disappear in plain sight or command animals with your mind, but save those overt talents for the right place and time. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park at this time of night. Both you and Sophie leave the car, with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems deep in thought. She takes in the surroundings with a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight, the stars just barely visible in the light-polluted aura of the city. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Go look for somebody to your liking. See what effects you can achieve with your blood. But only pick one victim, just one, then come back. Seeing how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here it looks like you have few choices. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger or someone like them could work, but focusing on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby, and worst case scenario there's bound to be some unfortunate wino around. Or maybe the tennis courts nearby. There's light coming from there, so somebody might still be playing a late match. They won't be alone, but they might be tired and let their guard down. As these scenarios play in your mind, you realize you are planning how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but the now familiar hunger prompts you to act. You decide the tennis courts are as good as a place as any, and make your way to the bright glow of the lamps illuminating the area. As you guessed, a pair of players, 2 men, fit but older, maybe pushing 60, are finishing up a match. They are the only ones there. It's time to make a move. I will barge into the showers. Presence lure a player away. Ich glaube, ich habe Presence benutzt tatsächlich. You think back to what Sophie did in the hall, how she managed to focus the attention of the entire gathering on her. That might be a tall order for you, but a single person could be doable. You wait patiently until the 2 men hit the showers, get out and say their goodbyes. They go their separate ways, and one of them notices you standing there. You immediately grab his attention. Good evening. You can make it better. You can make my evening much better. Oh, and how's that? You decide there won't be a better moment to strike, moving closer casually at first, then closing the distance in a single leap. You sink your fangs into his flesh. It only takes a sip for you to realize your mistake. A taste of mud and bile fills your throat. A second time tonight, you push the man away. He stumbles and falls to the ground. You can barely believe your luck. The hunger in you unsated. You leave the courts in a foul mood. As you're about to walk back to Sophie, a figure emerges from the shadows and stops you in your tracks. A hooded man is looking menacingly at you. What do you think you're doing? Barging on my turf like this, lick? Didn't mean to trespass, I'm going. Didn't mean to trespass, sorry, I'm going. Too late for that, friendo. You want to leave here in one piece, you talk. Candidly. I know what you are, so you can shove that masquerade misdirection up your ass. Now better tell me who you are before my posse shows up and we beat it out of you. I came here with Sophie Langley. She's my patron. Doesn't ring a bell. Sounds fancy, though. He licks his lips, exposing his fangs and looking at you voraciously. A nervous tick or an attempt at intimidation? I wonder, what would Callahan do to you if I brought you in, huh? Break your shins? Leave you out to be kissed by the sun? Oh, concrete shoes, maybe. He's old school like that. Enough's enough. You won't be intimidated by this asshole. Leave. Now. His countenance changes. A cruel beast one moment, a humbled pup the next. He walks away just like that. How did you do it? Not wishing to tempt fate any further, you return to the Unisphere, looking back over your shoulder to make sure you are not being followed. 2 figures are visible near the sculpture, a man, a woman, tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. It's Sophie, feeding. But this whole scene is set up so that it looks like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet and as she lets go of him and leads him towards the nearby bench. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. Her driver appears from behind a tree. Well, Stevie, how did it go? You're about to answer when the same figure as before emerges from one of the alleys. He looks at the 3 of you and a predatory smile creeps onto his lips. You're screwed, dumb fuck. You think you can mess with my head and get away with it? Think you'll be safe with your friends? Well, I have friends too. He makes a motion to shout, But two things happened almost at the same time. First, that feeling of warmth and beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both you and the hooded thug. His shout comes out as a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from a holster under his jacket and slams it into the thug's chest. Just like that, in a few seconds the posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. I see you've made a friend, Stevie. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? He said it was his turf. Said this was his turf and that I trespassed on it. I thought this place was supposed to be safe. Well, he's not part of the Camarilla. Corona Park hasn't been claimed by anyone I know of. Curious. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make his hoodlum's acquaintance. Gregory carries the staked vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising that you can get away with just casually throwing the stiff into your car and driving away. But then you remember that Sophie has been doing this far longer than you have. Still the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone and streamed online fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is a dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing has about as many caveats as it had perks. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I will pick you up tomorrow night, same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium, and I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality that she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. What's going to happen with him? To him? The usual, I imagine. Interrogation by Kadir, probably in the basement of the gallery. A quick trial with the prince in attendance, if she's there tomorrow night. A swift execution as the verdict. This all sounds eerily familiar to you, and you can't help but feel a pang of guilt when you think about what awaits this guy tomorrow night. You haven't told me how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope? My picky tastes flared up again. I couldn't make myself drink from that man, even though I did bite him. That is unfortunate, I'm afraid. I don't have a ready-made solution for this. You need to trust your instincts. The sooner you learn what you're looking for in a vessel, the better. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven to her apartment by Gregory, with the body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past unknowingly? What other secrets did you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? Your haven is just as you left it hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You're not in the mood for television, and the few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle in the back room, lock the door. A moment of hesitation, but then a decision. This time you turn the light off. You think back to Julie. How many people in the city know about this vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And the thug you met in the park? If he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are they independent vampires? How does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there's even going to be a night when you can start crossing them off the list, instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. It greets you with open arms, like an old friend.